Then Dharma Prince Manjusri arose from his seat, and in the midst of the assembly, he bowed at the Buddha's feet and said to the Buddha, "What is the name of this sutra, and how should we and all living beings uphold it?" The Buddha told Manjusri, "This sutra is called the Summit Sitanto Podala, an unsurpassed precious seal of the great Buddha, and the pure, clear, ocean-like eye of the thus-come ones of the 10 directions. It is also called the cause for saving a relative, to rescue Ananda and the Bhikshuni nature, who is now in this assembly, so that they obtain the Bodhi-mind and enter the sea of pervasive knowledge. It is also called the Tathagata's secret cause of cultivation, his certification to the complete meaning. It is also called the great pervasive method, the wonderful lotus flower king, the Dharani mantra, which is the mother of all Buddhas of the 10 directions. It is also called the foremost Shurangama, sections and phrases for anointing the crown of the head, and all Bodhisattvas' myriad practices. Thus should you respectfully uphold it." After this was said, Ananda and all in the great assembly immediately received the thus-come one's instruction in the secret seal, the meaning of Podala, and heard these names for the complete meaning of this sutra. They were suddenly enlightened to dhyana, advanced in their cultivation to the sagely position, and increased their understanding of the wonderful principle. Their minds were focused and serene. Ananda cut off and cast aside 6 sections of subtle afflictions in his cultivation of the mind in the triple realm. He arose from his seat, bowed at the Buddha's feet, placed his palms together respectfully, and said to the Buddha, "The great, awesome, and virtuous world-honored one, whose compassionate sound knows no limit, has well instructed living beings as to the extremely subtle submersion in delusion, and has caused me on this day to become blissful in body and mind, and to obtain enormous benefit. World-honored one, if the wonderful brightness of this truly pure and wonderful mind is basically all-pervading, then everything on the great earth, including the grasses and trees, the wriggling worms and tiny forms of life, are originally true suchness, and are themselves the thus-come one, the Buddha's true body. Since the Buddha's body is true and real, how can there also be hells, hungry ghosts, animals, asuras, humans, gods, and other paths of rebirth? World-honored one, do these paths exist naturally of themselves, or are they created by living beings' falseness and habits? World-honored one, the Bhikshuni precious lotus fragrance, for example, received the Bodhisattva precepts and then indulged in lustful desire, saying that sexual acts did not involve killing or stealing, and that they carry no karmic retribution. But after saying this, her female organs caught fire, and then the raging blaze spread throughout all of her joints as she fell into the relentless hell alive. And there were the mighty King Crystal and the Bhikshu Good Stars. Crystal exterminated the Gautama clan, and Good Stars lied and said he realized that all dharmas are empty. They both sank into the relentless hell alive. Are these hells fixed places, or do they arise spontaneously? Is it that each individual undergoes whatever kind of karma he or she creates? I only hope the Buddha will be compassionate and instruct those of us who do not understand this. May he cause all beings who uphold the precepts to positively and respectfully receive this determination upon hearing it, and be careful and clear, free from any violations. The Buddha said to Ananda, "What a good question! You want to keep all living beings from entering into deviant views. You should listen attentively now, and I will explain this matter for you." Actually, Ananda, all living beings are fundamentally true and pure, but because of their false views they give rise to the falseness of habits, which are divided into an internal aspect and an external aspect. Ananda, the internal aspect refers to what occurs inside living beings. Because of love and defilement, they produce the falseness of emotions. When these emotions accumulate without cease, they can create the fluids of love. That is why living beings' mouths water when they think about delicious food. When they think about a deceased person, either with fondness or with anger, tears will flow from their eyes. When they are greedy for wealth and jewels, a current of lust will course through their hearts. When confronted with a smooth and supple body, their minds become attached to lustful conduct, and from both male and female organs will come spontaneous secretions. Ananda, although the kinds of love differ, their flow and oppression is the same. With this moisture, one cannot ascend, but will naturally fall. This is called the internal aspect. Ananda, the external aspect refers to what happens outside living beings. Because of longing and yearning, they invent the fallacy of discursive thought. When this reasoning accumulates without cease, it can create ascending vapors. That is why when living beings uphold the prohibitive precepts in their minds, their bodies will be buoyant and feel light and clear. When they uphold mantra seals in their minds, they will command a heroic and resolute perspective. When they have the desire in their minds to be born in the heavens, in their dreams, they will have thoughts of flying and ascending. When they cherish the Buddha lands in their minds, then the sagely realms will appear in a shimmering vision, and they will serve the good and wise advisers with little thought for their own lives. Ananda, although the thought varies, the lightness and uplifting is the same. With flight and ascension, one will not sink, but will naturally become transcendent. This is called the external aspect. Ananda, all beings in the world are caught up in the continuity of birth and death. Birth happens because of their habitual tendencies. Death comes through flow and change, when they are on the verge of dying, but when the final warmth has not left their bodies. All the good and evil they have done in that life suddenly and simultaneously manifest. They experience the intermingling of two habits, an abhorrence of death and an attraction to life. Endowed solely with thought, they will fly and can certainly be reborn in the heavens above. If they fly from the heart, and if they have blessings and wisdom, as well as pure vows, then their hearts will spontaneously open, and they will see the Buddhas of the 10 directions, and all their pure lands, and they will be reborn in whichever one they wish. When they have more thought than emotion, they are not quite as ethereal, and so they become flying immortals, great mighty ghost kings, space-traveling yakshas, or earth-traveling raksasas, which roam the form heavens, going where they please without obstruction. Among them may be some with good vows and good hearts, who protect and uphold my Dharma. Perhaps they protect the pure precepts by following and supporting those who hold precepts. Perhaps they protect spiritual mantras by following and supporting those who hold mantras. Perhaps they protect chant samadhi by guarding and comforting those who are patient with dharmas. These beings are close at hand, beneath the dust come one seat. When their thought and emotion are of equal proportions, they cannot fly, and they do not fall, but are born in the human realm. If their thought is bright, their wits are keen. If their emotion is dark, their wits are dull. When they have more emotion than thought, they enter the animal realm. With heavier emotion, they become fur-bearing beasts. With lighter emotion, they become winged creatures. When they have 70% emotion and 30% thought, they fall beneath the wheel of water into the regions of fire, where they come into contact with steam, which is itself like a terrible blaze. In the bodies of hungry ghosts, they are constantly burned by that fire. Even water harms them, and they have nothing to eat or drink for hundreds of thousands of kalpas. When they have 90% emotion and 10% thought, they fall through the wheel of fire until their bodies enter wind and fire, in the region where the two interact. With lighter emotion, they are born in the intermittent hell. With heavier emotion, they are born in the relentless hell. When they are possessed entirely of emotion, they sink into the Avicii hell. If the emotion has gone into their hearts, so that they slander the great vehicle, defame the Buddha's pure precepts, speak crazy and false dharma, are greedy for offerings from the faithful, recklessly accept the respect of others, commit the 5 rebellious acts and the 10 major offenses, then they are further reborn in Avicii hells throughout the 10 directions. Although one receives one's due, according to the evil karma one has created, a group can undergo an identical lot, and there are definite places where it occurs. Ananda, it all comes from the karmic responses which living beings themselves invoke. They create 10 habitual causes and undergo 6 interacting retributions. What are the 10 causes? Ananda, the first consists of habits of lust and reciprocal interactions which give rise to mutual rubbing. When this rubbing continues without cease, it produces a tremendous raging fire within which movement occurs, just as warmth arises between a person's hands when he rubs them together. Because these two habits set each other ablaze, there come into being the iron bed, the copper pillar, and other such experiences. Therefore, the dust come ones of the 10 directions look upon the practice of lust and name it the fire of desire. Bodhisattvas avoid desire as they would a fiery pit. The second consists of habits of greed and intermingled scheming, which give rise to a suction. When this suction becomes dominant and incessant, it produces intense cold and solid ice, where freezing occurs, just as a sensation of cold is experienced when a person draws in a blast of wind through his mouth. Because these two habits clash together, they come into being chattering, whimpering, and shuddering, blue, red, and white lotuses, coal and ice, and other such experiences. Thereupon, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon excessive seeking and name it the water of greed. Bodhisattvas avoid greed as they would a sea of pestilence. The third consists of habits of arrogance and resulting friction, which give rise to mutual intimidation. When it accelerates without cease, it produces torrents and rapids, which create restless waves of water. Just as water is produced when a person continuously works his tongue in an effort to taste flavors. Because these two habits incite one another, they come into being the river of blood, the river of ashes, the burning sand, the poisonous sea, the molten copper, which is poured over one, or which must be swallowed, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon self-satisfaction and name it drinking the water of stupidity. Bodhisattvas avoid arrogance as they would a huge deluge. The fourth consists of habits of hatred, which give rise to mutual defiance. When this defiance binds one without cease, one's heart becomes so hot that it catches fire, and the molten vapor turns into metal. From it is produced the mountain of knives, the iron cudgel, the tree of swords, the wheel of swords, axes and halberds, and spears and swords. It is like the intent to kill surging forth when a person meets a mortal enemy, so that he is roused to action. Because these two habits clash with one another, they come into being castration and hacking, beheading and mutilation, filing and sticking, flogging and beating, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon hatred and name it sharp knives and swords. Bodhisattvas avoid hatred as they would their own execution. The fifth consists of habits of deception and misleading involvements, which give rise to mutual guile. When such maneuvering continues without cease, it produces the ropes and wood of a gallows for hanging, like the grass and trees that grow when water saturates a field. Because the two habits perpetuate one another, they come into being handcuffs and fetters, cangs and locks, whips and clubs, sticks and cudgels, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon deception and name it as treacherous crook. Bodhisattvas fear deception as they would a savage wolf. The sixth consists of habits of lying and combined fraudulence, which give rise to mutual cheating. When false accusations continue without cease, one becomes adept at corruption. From this they come into being dust and dirt, excrement and urine, filth, stench and impurities. It is like the obscuring of everyone's vision when the dust is stirred up by the wind. Because these two habits augment one another, they come into being sinking and drowning, tossing and pitching, flying and falling, floating and submerging, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon lying and name it robbery and murder. Bodhisattvas regard lying as they would treading on a venomous snake. The seventh consists of habits of animosity and interconnected enmity, which give rise to grievances. From this they come into being flying rocks, thrown stones, caskets and closets, cages on wheels, jars and containers, and bags and rods. It is like someone harming others secretly. He harbors, cherishes, and nurtures evil. Because these two habits swallow one another up, they come into being tossing and pitching, seizing and apprehending, striking and shooting, casting away and pinching, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon animosity and name it as disobedient and harmful ghosts. Bodhisattvas regard animosity as they would drinking poisonous wine. The 8th consists of habits of use and the admixture of understandings such as Sakkaya Ditthi, views, moral prohibitions, grasping, and deviant insight into various kinds of karma, which bring about opposition and produce mutual antagonism. From them there come into being court officials, deputies, certifiers, and registrars. They are like people traveling on the road who meet each other coming and going. Because these two habits influence one another, there come into being official inquiries, baited questions, examinations, interrogations, public investigations, exposure, the youths who record good and evil, carrying the record books of the offenders' arguments and rationalizations, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon evil views and name them the pit of views. Bodhisattvas regard having false and one-sided views as they would standing on the edge of a steep ravine full of poison. The 9th consists of the habits of injustice and the interconnected support of one another. They result in instigating false charges and libeling. From them are produced crushing between mountains, crushing between rocks, stone rollers, stone grinders, ploughing and pulverizing. It is like a slanderous villain who engages in persecuting good people unjustly. Because these two habits join ranks, they come into being pressing and pushing, bludgeons and compulsion, squeezing and straining, weighing and measuring, and other such experiences. Therefore, the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon harmful accusations and name them a treacherous tiger. Bodhisattvas regard injustice as they would a bolt of lightning. The 10th consists of the habits of litigation and the mutual disputations which give rise to covering. From them there are produced a look in the mirror and illumination by the lamp. It is like being in direct sunlight. There is no way where one can hide one's shadow. Because these two habits binker back and forth, there come into being evil companions, the mirror of karma, the fury pole, exposure of past karmas, inquest, and other such experiences. Therefore, all the thus come ones of the 10 directions look upon covering and name it a hidden villain. Bodhisattvas regard covering as they would having to carry a mountain atop their heads while walking upon the sea.